kind of a rare sight in Oklahoma.
Alrighty then, we're on our way to pick up some Volkswagen parts. I know it sounds like a long way to go, but I'm going from Oklahoma City to Tulsa. Some of these parts, some of these people, I should say, think they've got gold in their backyards, but they really don't. They have an old Volkswagen, and they want thousands for them, and it's really strange. Well, I found a gentleman who has a lot of Volkswagen parts, and he doesn't want so much for them. It's kind of nice. It's kind of refreshing. So I made a deal for a couple of engines, and out of those parts, we're going to build our engine. Onward to Tulsa. Well, we're looking for this place, coming up on it. Getting closer. A lot of land out here. All the snow's gone, it looks like. But they didn't get any snow. It's funny, they're up farther north than we are. Yeah, so. Well, we'll be there in a minute, folks. Okay. Well, we're here. Ooh, he's got a 55. How nice. Okay. I'll pull up. I don't know where he's at. There he is. All right. Okay. We just left and got a whole bunch of bits and pieces. I got me 4 original German hubcaps. They're not the best shape, but they're there, and they're hard to find for my car. I did pick up both of those engines, and they're in better shape than I had hoped for. They weren't out in the water. So let's get home and we'll see what we have.
Well, it looks as if a bomb has gone off again in my garage. I did go to Tulsa, and I did get my parts that I wanted, I was looking for. One thing I got was this block, and the good thing about this is it's not froze up, and it does turn. Although it does turn slow, it does turn. A couple of things about this block. This is an AK block, and that means it's going to have 2 pressure relief valves, one here and one in the back. Also, this block is this is a 1973, and in 1973, if you notice, this has 8mm cylinder head studs, which are very small. I'm starting to get a light right now, so hope I can make this. But the reason why they are small is because that's plenty enough to hold the cylinder head in place and torque it down. And if you look closely, amongst the mud dauber nests that are in this, Volkswagen has put inserts in there, so you do not need to put case savers in it. It already has them in it. So this block has got all the good things that I want, case savers and whatnot like that. And believe me, if you've never had, if you haven't had case savers and you all of a sudden lost all your compression in one of your cylinders because your head stripped out, or because your bolt stripped out, man, it's a mess to fix that, a real mess. I got this engine, which turns, and I also got this engine here, and this engine is, it also turns, and this engine is an H engine, and so the camshaft I want to use the camshaft and at least the crank gear out of this, and because they're hobbed together, and put them in that case. And if I use the camshaft out of this, then I can use the distributor, the H distributor that I have, and time it as a 1500. Okay, the barrels are burnt up, froze up, got rust in them and stuff, so I can't use the barrels on it. I haven't opened these up yet, but I'm going to open these up, and we'll take all the good parts. I'm not going to bore you with all that. I'm just going to have all the parts out. Now I want to show you some other things that I also got while I was at this guy's place. Okay, also I got a set of seat belts for the car, and you see wires on them, and you're saying, those aren't the right seat belts for your car. And I'm like, you know, the seat belts I had before for my car were not retractable, and they tucked in, and that, you know, you had to fold them in and that kind of stuff. The body of this car is essentially the same as the car I got these out of, the shell, so the diameter or dimensions are the same. I'd rather have retractable seat belts anyways. These were like almost nothing, and now I have retractable seat belts, modern seat belts. I really didn't want the old seat belts anyways because they don't retract. You know, I can always put the originals back in if I want to. Plus I got all the hardware. Not only did I get that, but I also got the stops that were missing for my heater controls, and the fiber gaskets, and all the hardware that goes with those. I got the cap for my parking brake, so now I will have a parking brake. Alright, all the nuts that goes with those. I got the pull straps, I got a jack handle, I got a trim ring for my light that replaces the plastic one. I don't know where the other hubcap is. It's in my van still, I think, but I got 4 original German hubcaps. Those are 66, 67 specific. And I got a K intake. The carburetor was free. What's wrong with your intake? Well, my intake has a hole in it right there, and I don't want to fix it. These intakes are specific. You want to get the right one for your car, and mine, all the 1500s, all have the same number, but they end in a different letter. So you want to make sure and get the right letter. They have vacuum ports and such for auto stick. Also today, we're going to Purcell, Oklahoma, to look for a different set of cylinder heads, better ones. One of these is cracked, and you know, let's see what we can find. He wants 30 bucks a piece for him, and he has 50 to choose from. So let's see what he has, and I'll see if I can't get a better set of heads to work on ones that don't have valves that are so bad, or seats that are so bad, or cracks in them. So I'm going to get taking these engines apart and charge this battery back up. Which one's first? This one? This one? I think I'll do this one first. Alright, what we have here is the case that's split open with ubiquitous mud dauber nests in them. Okay. Everything was free as far as it spun. I wanted to show you a couple of things. This has some homemade case savers, and what they had done is they had cut a hole out for a nut and screwed a nut on the end of the stud and then peened it over. And what that does is it keeps, because you've got this much meat here, like that much meat, it keeps the stud from pulling out. Those are homemade case savers. I've seen that before. But usually what they do is they drill into it, tap it, and put another set of threads in it. That block over there already has case savers in it, so that's why it has the small studs, the 8mm studs. They put the heavier 10mm studs in this because they're bigger, you know, and so a thought wasn't given about pulling the threads out. So, but you know, these these have been done. A couple of things about the bearings. We have, I don't know if you can read that or not, but it says STD on it, and it does not mean sexually transmitted disease. It means standard. So the main bearings in this are standard. So my main throws on my crank are standard. I'm not certain about the rods yet. I'll have to check them. Probably standard as well. So we'll be able to, provided that all the journals are relatively clean, we can just buy a standard set of bearings for it. Our gear is hobbed to this cam. However, I'm going to have to check the book and look, because this cam is not a flat cam. It's a dished cam, but it does have a part number, so we can look at that and see. It's a 4-bolt or 4-rivet cam. This, I believe, came out of a later engine. If it came out of a later engine, it's the wrong cam for our engine, but it might have to be what we use. Don't know. There was 2 salvageable cylinders and pistons. They're 85.5s. The other 2 had rust in them from water intrusion. These aren't too bad, so if I ever had a dune buggy project or another engine I just wanted to slap together and see what happened, these would be candidates. I also have a distributor drive with a spring. Along with all those parts I got, I have a complete nut and bolt set for this. A correct nut and bolt set, because Abner Dimwit had lost all the nuts and bolts to that engine over there, the original engine. So let's take this down and let's put this one up here, and maybe I'll show you how it gets cracked open, how I crack them open, how I open up a block. Okay, see you in a bit. Relax, man. I got junk cylinders and junk head on that. But it works. Okay, this is one of the reasons why I'm not using this block, is the oil filter boss is broke off. Now, can I tap that and put a remote oil filter on there? Yes, that's fine. Another thing, on this oil filter boss, usually you will find 0.020, 0.040, 0.080, 0.060, and that is a clue. And the clue is someone line bored that engine. This has nothing on it, and it has standard bearings. So it's standard outside diameter, and it's the standard inside diameter. Another thing is this block here, somebody broke the generator stand off of it as well. So, you know, I could probably make it work, but why would I want to when I have this block here? So we have some other clues on this block here. We have, or this case here rather, and we have a broken off stud right here, or not a stud, but a tab where the cylinder tin attaches. So we're going to have to probably tap off of our little bracket or something with a little nut on it. We can fix that. It's not too big of a deal. There's another big tell too behind number 3, this web right here. Sometimes you will find these with a plate over it that's been welded on there. These are susceptible to cracking, and so, you know, sometimes you get a leak there and it's cracked, and it's, you know, there's nothing you can do about it. Usually when you weld it, you've toasted the case. I guess you can weld aluminum. I don't know. So I don't know if this is an aluminum case. I think it's a magnesium case. On the top here we have nothing. Usually, unless they're absolute Abner Dimwit, they will stamp on the top there 030 if the case has been line bored, and this one hasn't. So we're pretty good. I'm going to bring you around right here. Now I've got all the nuts and bolts off the engine. There's two hidden bolts, nuts. They're hard to find. They're on the back. Let's see if we can. I built myself something that'll support it. Okay, they are on the back side right here, and there's one underneath it too. When you take your nuts and bolts off, make sure you take the washers off too, because the washers will hinder you for getting your engine apart. Use special care when you take out. Let's see here. Take out your oil pump if you're going to use it again. This particular one, I'm not going to use it again. Let's see how we are here. We got it so you can see. Yeah, that's not too bad. Try to keep my big body out of the way. And your oil pump should come out. Thusly. Your oil pump will come out easier if you take all the nuts and bolts off, and it'll go in easier too. Before you completely bolt up your case, you should put your oil pump in, slide it in, because it's easier to get in. It's quite a tool right there. Of course, the oil pump is broken. Trash. This is a spreader, a case spreader. Now, taking apart a case. When you take apart a case, it should come apart relatively easy. If you're having to just crank the case spreader and nothing's happening, you've got a bolt somewhere that you don't have out, and you could easily tear your case up. This goes right in between here. Is it right? You should hear it pop, or just kind of start coming apart. So you see how it's easy and it's coming apart real nice. I've not got a lot of effort. There's another spot that you can pop, and you can do that just with a screwdriver. Now, you got to be careful not to damage your case halves. But this is not a sealing surface. This little spot right back here, and it's got a little notch. And if you put a little screwdriver in there, and now, if you have to take a chisel and a hammer and wail on it, like you're driving railroad spikes, then something's wrong, kiddies, and you need to address it. Oftentimes, the crank bearings are stuck, and you can take and just go, and it will loosen them right on the, especially if you're dealing with, right on the throw. If you're dealing with an old pile of crap like this, sometimes you got to do that. A little of the old famous let go goes a long way. So, let's see here. Let's put that in there. There's dowel pins in there. And if you spray them with a little let go around the sealing edge there, you can probably get them where they won't drop back in, and they'll come out pretty easy. The cam plug usually sticks, so you gotta get in there too. So there you go there. Now we're gonna expand this a little bit. and it almost should come apart now. We'll have to get those dowel pins out a little farther, and she should almost come apart. If you got your crank coming with the top portion of the half, I usually set it on the other side because of the stud. It doesn't have a stud for the thermostat. So there you go there. And let's try in this other little spot once more. It's not a good idea to put a screwdriver in these other spots. These are probably the only spots you want to pry. This right here and your oil pump. That's it. You don't want to get up underneath here with a screwdriver and start boogering on it, because you're going to have leak problems there. You're going to damage the case. Everything seems to be coming really well. Make sure you have your washers off too, all your washers, because they will sometimes hinder your progress. I'm going to pop that crank once again. Seems to be staying with the lower half, which is good. That's good. Well, let's keep going. Some of them are really, really tight. You don't want to come apart, been together for a long time. One other thing about this block I wanted to tell you is I'll have to source some different studs if I'm going to put single port heads on it. The single port heads, pull that seal out of there. The single port heads had a little bit longer stud right here, and on this one, and they were the dual port heads have shorter ones, and the reason why they have shorter ones is because they have less meat there, because the intake has to. I'll show you on the head. So essentially, I need to find myself 1, 2, 3, 4. I need to find 8 of the outer studs, 8 of the longer studs. Essentially, I've got some studs missing here. Maybe I can find them, buy another stud set. I don't know. So we got it pretty much. Let's see if we can lift this off there. Probably the lifters are stuck in there, so you don't have to worry about them, but they do make little deals that hold the lifters. Oh, a mouse nest. Look at that. Got a mouse nest in the bottom of it. That's pretty cute. Make sure the mouse is not in there. Wouldn't that be funny? It's got a mouse nest in it. That's pretty funny. That is humorous right there. That's good humor. Let's see if the mouse jumps out. Yeah. He would have jumped out if he would have been in there. Probably not. That's pretty fun. And of course, in every engine, we can't forget the mud dauber nest. This also has a dished cam, as you would expect in a dual port engine. It has a dished 4 rivet cam, as you would find in a dual port engine. I wonder if those are the same, those part numbers. I'll have to look them up. Alrighty then. Well, take this crank out of here. Yeah, oh, there you go. And we'll lay this aside. And let's look at the fossil evidence. Let's see if we can look at the fossil evidence and see what it says. Let's see what this bearing says. And it says, oh, it has a VW stamp on it. You know what that means? That means this has the original VW bearings. Or it has VW bearings. It has a little elephant on it. Oh, I love them. I love that. That's pretty cool. A little elephant deal. So, and it has a part number of 131, 105, 531, which tells me 531. 531. 531 is going to be a standard. That's a standard bearing. So this engine hasn't been apart. Now, and bearing's really not too bad. It's not really too bad. So that's pretty cool. So this has a standard crank, and that's all right. Okay, well, we're going to take the lifters out of this and the distributor drive, and we're going to take and get all the mouse nest out of this, and we're going to take it down to the car wash and clean it up. So there you go. Okay, the relief holes. You have one up here and you have one back here. The one back here has a shorter spring, and sometimes you have to use one of those to get it out, or you can use a big screwdriver and a hammer like I had to and kind of start it to beat it around a little bit. Oftentimes old blocks are froze up like that and they're hard to get out. One thing that you can do is you can take, I've got a 12 by 1.25 tap, and it fits exactly in the center there perfectly, and it allows a little bite for both of them. And I don't know if this one's bigger than this one. It might be a little bit bigger, but I don't think it is. No, both of them are the same size. So it allows you a little bite, and you can spray a little let go in there and turn it and rock it back and forth and pull it out. That works really well to get those out of there, because if you can't get them out, I don't know what you would do, really. So I've got both of those out. Those holes need to be cleaned up, so as do the relief valves, and a little steel wool would probably clean them up just fine. You don't want to sand on them because they're kind of a precision fit kind of a thing, but they need to move freely, as well as all the oil passages need to be cleaned out and that kind of stuff. Now, I don't know what I'm going to do about this camshaft ordeal, because I have two flat camshafts, or two dished camshafts, and I have a dual port block. So I don't know. I'd like to have the original cam, but I don't think that's going to happen. So I'm going to have to make do with what I have and use a dished cam. So got a package today. This is from my brother, and he had sent me some carb preheat tube and other various tubes and clamps, and he sent me also in there is the original, goes to the distributor, or goes to the to the distributor, I think. Yeah, and it's got a big loop, goes up over the float bowl, so you're not sucking from the float bowl, so it doesn't get gas in it. Does that make sense? Something like that. I'll have to look at that and see. I have some emission hose and some gas line hose, and he also sent me original clamps, the crimp clamp. They need be crimped, I believe, with a, KD makes a tool for them. So I don't know if I'm going to use those yet or not, because once you get those on there and you want to get your carburetor back off, you have to cut them off. So, but thank you, Brian. I appreciate you sending me this stuff. Every little bit helps, and we're going to go forward with this. So the case looks okay. You know, the bottom's not rotted out. The only thing I can find is it has one tab broken off for the for the tin. That's not too bad. So we're going to use this case, and we're going to press forward. I'm going to look for some cylinder heads today, so we'll make a video of that, going to look for cylinder heads. This is going to be end of part 1 for this engine, and thank you for wrenching with me. And if you enjoyed this, like and subscribe. I'm trying to be informative. My video quality isn't that great. I don't have any flashy this or that or the other. It's just information and things you might run into trying to work on one of these. One good deal about this is I found kind of an old stash of engines, and these have been sitting probably for 30 years. And when you're sitting for 30 years, you end up with kind of original stuff, and this is very original. It has the original bearings, original crank and cam, and it's it's a very original piece. So yeah, I'm very happy with this. The other one has had new bearings in it. The elephant is the dead giveaway on the bearings. That's the original Volkswagen stuff. If I can find it. See if I can find the little elephant for you. I thought it was pretty cool right there. And there's the, if I can get her to focus. If you can see that, the little elephant and the bearing and the VW stamp. Plus it has a 131 part number. Okay. Thank you very much. Like and subscribe below. Bye.